All right, we're going to move on to our third segment here where we're going to focus on GPP plays. So we already talked about some of the game environments we like, how we'd stack certain games, but there are some other guys here who maybe haven't mentioned yet who are GPP type plays that you only play in tournament formats. Eric, do you want to throw somebody out there to start? Any position, we can go just kind of rapid fire.
Sure. So I think, obviously GPPs at quarterback, you want to use the quarterbacks that you're stacking. We talked about the stacks before. So I think, just to go through some of that, I think GPP wide receivers, I play Mike Williams and stack that up with Justin Herbert. We saw Anthony Averett get picked on over and over and over again by Carson Wentz. And so I think that the Chargers could have a good passing day. DeAndre Hopkins, Jamar Chase. I think those are really good GPP wide receivers. And then also I would just throw out Brandon Cooks. I think that as a pay down spot, the Patriots kind of schemed him out, right? That's what Belichick does. He takes your best option, he takes it away from you. So that was why Cooks didn't really have a big game last week. And then Cooks didn't play a lot in the second half against the Bills because the Bills were up 40-0. So you're looking at two really down weeks from Cooks, which I think are explainable, and people are going to be off him. But I'm not concerned about this Colts secondary, and I think that the Texans are going to need to pass to keep up there. So I like Cooks, and you could almost even do like a little mini stack with Cooks and Pittman. Because Pittman has been, a bigger component of the Colts passing game. So that would be kind of where I'm leaning wide receiver as GPP guys that I'm not really comfortable about in cash.
Yeah, I agree on all those guys. And I'm glad you mentioned like Jacoby Myers in the last segment. And that you also mentioned here Brandon Cooks, like two guys who I think that, had kind of off weeks last week and that could bounce back and are priced right in that sweet spot. That mid-tier gets overlooked so often. We cram in the high-priced wide receivers. We're looking for usually there's some 3 and 4K guys that project well because, they're cheap. We look at that multiplier price all the time, but there's so many guys in that mid-tier that usually gets overlooked that are excellent GPP-type plays. How about some other positions here? Like, I know we mentioned a lot of running backs in our cash game segment. There's some guys here like Jonathan Taylor, who is another guy who had a huge week last week and has a pretty solid matchup against Houston. He's 6,600. So again, he's like in that nether world of like not high price, but not the value either. Any other backs? I'm just checking my list here to see if I've missed anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I would still play Eckler and GPPs and cash. Same thing, like Mixon and Swift are guys we talked about that I would play in GPPs as well. I would play Chase Edmonds. I think that, if we're talking about this game being high scoring, then I think that, you're going to get Chase Edmonds more than, you got James Conner. And they got James Conner the last 2 weeks because they were up by a lot against the Rams. And then this 49ers game was like a slow, grinded out game. I think they may have to take to the air a little bit more against the Browns. We've talked about how that's the Browns, weakness. So I think that Chase Edmonds, I'm not comfortable in cash. I kind of think that he could be a sneaky GPP play. And then if you also wanted to get involved in Washington, I think J.D. McKissick is an interesting GPP play because we know that he is heavily involved in the passing game. And if you think Kansas City is going to score a lot against the Washington football team, one day I'll stop doing that. Then I think that you could see McKissick get involved in the passing game, which at only 4,800 would be like a little punt play at running back. And then I'll throw out something even crazier, which I don't even know that I would do, but I just want to say that when Baltimore went to their 2-minute drill where they had to pass to keep up with the Colts, it was all Devonta Freeman. He had 4 targets. He had 34 yards. If they're going to have to pass a lot to keep up with the Chargers, which is possible, then that may mean more Devonta Freeman than Latavius Murray, who was their kind of early down back. And Devonta Freeman's only 4,000.
Yeah.
It's a total punt play, but if you're playing in like, a big field and you need something that like drastically differentiates you, it could be an interesting thought.
Well, there's a couple guys I just want to throw out there that you didn't mention. And it's funny because last week I was all over Zeke and I felt like Zeke was going to be really popular. And then he really wasn't all that popular in that game. And this week he's only $1,000 or $100 more. And he has another pretty good matchup. From everything I'm seeing, Dallas offensive line is rating out as the best and the best rush offense in the league. And the Patriots just really aren't great. And like you said earlier in the show, or when we're talking about Dallas, they just really want to run the ball now. And I watched that game last week against the Giants, and they just earlier on in the game, they just pounded both guys, Pollard, Zeke, threw it to them out of the backfield. I just think Zeke Elliott looks good and is getting 20 plus touches. And it's kind of people are gonna forget about him this week because that game isn't maybe perhaps popping like some of these others. You can even play Pollard, I think, because of how if you think that game gets out of control and they pull Zeke in the third quarter or something, then they feed Pollard. Like, I think the Dallas running game is something you should focus on every week until they get a really tough matchup.
I kind of like the idea also of like mini stacking a running back with a wide receiver if you think a game is going to get out of hand. So like mini Myers, stacking right? Zeke with Myers could be interesting if you're like, okay, Dallas is going to run away with this game, so I'm going to play Zeke because they're going to ball control offense in the second half. Well, on the other side, the Patriots are going to have to pass to catch up, or this will transition to the next position. If you wanted to kind of be a more unique mini stack, you could mini stack Zeke with a guy like Hunter Henry,
right?
Because Hunter Henry has kind of emerged as their pass catching option at tight end. Had 8 targets this last week for 75 yards and a touchdown, as touchdowns in his last 2 games. So I think that Henry is a tight end play that I really like in GPPs as well.
Awesome. I like that call, and he had a nice week last week. We're going to wrap things up here with a segment that we always do at the end of the show where we have our bold calls for week 6. I'm going to go first this time, Eric, to give you some time to think about this one. I have this one all queued up. Here's what I want to do. I love Joe Burrow this week. I love the Cincinnati passing attack. I feel like Joe Mixon is going to be pretty popular because people think running backs against Detroit. And I want to go Mixon with your boy Jamar Chase, who's been phenomenal, and run it back with Swift. I'm going to say that those 3 guys are in the optimal DraftKings lineup come end of Sunday. We'll go with a Mixon, Swift, Chase stack for all the money. You got time, and here's yours.
For all the money. Man, you know what? I don't know that it's a really bold take. I'll say that Darrell Henderson finishes as a top 5 overall performer at the running back position. I think that's really good. I think he's really good this week. And then I will say that I think if Sterling Shepard is active, which I expect him to be, I think if Sterling Shepard is active, then I think Kadarius Toney is sub 10 points on DraftKings this week. I think he finishes with like 8 or 9 points, which I didn't think was that bold, but I'm reading a lot of people that seem to think that Kadarius Toney is like, the next big thing at wide receiver. Right. And I think he's got a lot of talent, but I'm not ready to give him that entire offense. Also, he's got Mike Glennon throwing him the ball against a solid Rams defense. So I think that could limit the upside.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest question marks on the slate is like what's going to go on with Toney and the Giants, and I think we'll have to look into that as the week goes along. Well, we're going to wrap things up for week 6. I want to thank everybody for listening and watching. Thanks again, Eric, for joining me and going through the slate with me. Make sure you like and subscribe to our videos and leave comments and feedback so we can continue to kind of tailor these shows to fit your needs and so we can, address the concerns you have about DFS each week. Good luck this week, Eric.
And to you.
All right, man. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.